More time to say hello to James Creedon for Media Watch.
Hi, Chris.
James. Starting off in the UK, and this debate over whether social media played a role in the tragic death of TV presenter Caroline Flack.
That's right. It's got a lot of attention, in particular in the UK, but outside the UK as well, because it's another one of these cases where she tragically put an end to her own life over the weekend. She was a presenter of reality TV show Love Island through 5 seasons, but she was removed as host back in September and following allegations that she had assaulted her boyfriend. A trial was set to come up on March the 4th, and it seems that her upset with that trial, impending trial, may have contributed to this. This is an Instagram post that she put up some weeks back. I think it was in December, where she said, "This kind of scrutiny and speculation is a lot to take on for one person. I'm a human being at the end of the day, and I'm not going to be silenced," etc., etc. So you can see the extent to which her presence on social media was quite considerable. In fact, this article here is talking about the extent to which a lot of people are feeling grief for Caroline Flack because they felt that they knew her, because sure, her profile would have been mixed in with, say, actual real life friends on social media. This is the way it works now. You might be following people you know in the real world, and then you're following celebrities such as her, and so people have this sense of proximity to her. So while you could say she was, as a celebrity and as somebody present on social media, feeding into that to some extent, or constructing that social media identity, it did then, I suppose, it was a double-edged sword, because when things started to go wrong in her life, she was also getting a certain amount of abuse on social media, and that is something that she spoke out about a number of times in the past, even going back to 2015, saying that she was in tears after looking at social media, this while she was hosting the X Factor, or the final of X Factor, because she was getting personal criticism. So clearly this was something that was giving her a big profile in her life and in her career, but was also causing suffering behind the scenes. And it has led to that, very, old debate now, really, in the UK in particular, about tabloids hounding celebrities and the role of social media as well in all of that. There are even some tweets, some people saying a good rule is if you don't say it to someone's face, then you shouldn't tweet it. Social media, should rules be brought in, that you have a very deadly combination nowadays of vicious, nasty trolls on social media and tabloids making money off the personal turmoil of famous people. It even went so far as to one celebrity, this is Stephanie Davis, an actress in the series Hollyoaks, setting up a petition, which is over 500,000 signatures, saying there needs to be much stricter rules for journalists and photographers who are covering celebrities. In fact, maybe the celebrities' permission should be sought. A lot of other people saying that's just not realistic. And indeed, just to finish with this article in Spiked, this person saying, actually, Brendan O'Neill writing here, saying suicide is actually quite a complex thing. The organisation, the Samaritans, always cautions journalists not to oversimplify, and that there were probably multiple causes, and the media and social media is hardly the only cause.
Okay, we're going to move on to a slightly more heartwarming story now. And a Syrian father who's found a novel way of protecting his young daughter.
That's right. So his name is Abdallah. He's in Idlib, and he's taught his 4-year-old daughter, Selva, that when bombs go off, to laugh. Now, we should have audio on this, but what you can see here is that at a certain point, a bomb goes off, and indeed it's become a game, right? So the whole family sort of participated in creating this fiction. It's been going up on news websites all over. So a sound that would ordinarily bring out fear in a child or even in an adult, she has been kind of convinced to think it's a game. A lot of people have been comparing it to La Vita e Bella, that movie that won a Palme d'Or back in, I think it was 1998, where Roberto Benigni's character convinced his son that concentration camp was an elaborate game, and as such kind of avoided the trauma that would go with. So look, it's the heartwarming story of the day for sure, how to sort of turn tragedy into well, maybe not triumph, but something resembling it.
Okay, I've heard it called a few other things here in France, but we'll call it Griveaux-gate for now. There's a few more developments today.
Yes, well, I mean, it's the legal aspects of it are kind of being pursued. Benjamin Griveaux photographed here looking somewhat forlorn, coming out of his office at the Assemblée Nationale. I just said I'd finish on this one element, because actually a lot of the cartoons and buzz online, you can't show it because it's quite it's quite racy. It did involve, of course, you'll remember, a sex tape. This is in tomorrow's Canard Enchaîné, and what it says here is, could you imagine General de Gaulle making a sex tape? And you see him there with a sort of old-fashioned dial-up phone, which is probably less sophisticated than modern smartphones. Perhaps that had some advantages. But I think what's interesting about this cartoon is you have a lot of people saying nowadays, well, sure, haven't French politicians always sort of behaved a little bit like this? General de Gaulle was probably an exception. He was, I think, known as a family man. But certainly François Mitterrand kind of had a whole second family. You had Félix Faure back around the turn of the century, who allegedly died during a sex act, and so there was all sorts of racy activities going on. And I suppose the fact that we don't have telephones like that anymore is probably the central reason for some people getting caught out nowadays, when that behaviour isn't necessarily something that was not around in previous decades. But nowadays, a less forgiving context, I suppose.
And it's all relayed in real time, of course, thanks to social media. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
James Creedon.